Every good story needs a villain, and there are many players in NBA history that fans cannot stand. If you're watching this video, you're probably a fan of the NBA, and I can guarantee that there are players you absolutely hate, whether it's because they play for your rival team or because they're dirty players. So in today's video, I'm going to showcase these villains of the NBA world and give the top 10 most hated NBA players of all time. Number 10, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons wasn't always a hated player. Before he was drafted, he was one of the most highly anticipated rookies we have ever seen. Being a 6'10" point guard, he quickly got comparisons to Magic Johnson and LeBron James. He won the Rookie of the Year award and had a decent first few years in his career, so you might be asking, why is Ben Simmons now one of the most hated NBA players? Fans have begun to hate Ben Simmons purely out of frustration. He is great at finishing inside the paint, passing, and playing defense, but he is known as one of the worst three-point shooters of all time. If Ben Simmons was a dominant post player or a center, it would maybe make a little bit more sense, but he's always either playing the point guard or the power forward. It's not the fact that he's bad at three-point shooting, it's the fact that he refuses to work on his shot and implement it into his game after this long. Ben Simmons is the 20th highest paid player in the NBA today, and he is still not willing to work on his game in ways that his team needs. In interviews, he always seems to want to brush it off, and he's been one of the most unreliable players in the NBA. Number 9, Draymond Green. Being the third member of the Golden State Warriors' Big Three, Draymond Green has had an amazing career, but he's been in many controversial situations and moments that have made fans hate him. Draymond never shies away from saying exactly how he feels, and he's one to act on his emotions as well. Like how just this past season, a video got leaked from a Warriors practice of Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole in the face. Draymond obviously got backlash from this, but it wasn't the first time he's gotten hate for hurting other players. In the late 2010s, Draymond became notorious for kicking players in the nuts. While nobody knows if these were intentional or not, it did not make Draymond Green a likable player by any means. Regardless, Draymond is a 4-time champion and a contributing factor to one of the best dynasties in NBA history. But Draymond's loud outspokenness and actions have gotten him a lot of hate. Number 8, Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce is a Boston Celtic legend, the player who truly popularized the step back we see all the time in the NBA today. But Pierce truly gets hate from one moment in his career. In Game 1 of the 2008 Finals, he appeared to go down with an injury and told people around him that he sprained his MCL. He left the game in a wheelchair and moments later ran back to the court like nothing happened. Rumors about what really happened have been speculating for years, but Paul Pierce finally admitted in 2019, after 11 years, that he faked an injury to use the bathroom. After this, Paul Pierce would lose a lot of respect across fans for lying about it, and honestly, despite his amazing career, he's looked at like a joke today. After his retirement, he's gone on to have some of the worst NBA takes of all time, like calling himself better than Dwayne Wade or calling Steph Curry a wing shooter. But no matter what, Paul Pierce is a legend in the sport, and he deserves a lot more respect. Number 7, Rudy Gobert. Many people might not remember this, but Rudy Gobert may have been responsible for spreading COVID across the Utah Jazz and getting the season canceled in 2020. In a press conference around the very beginning of the COVID pandemic, Rudy Gobert touched all of the microphones as a way to make fun of COVID. A few days later, it was announced that Rudy Gobert was the first player to get COVID in the NBA. In the beginning of a Jazz vs Thunder game, it was announced that a Jazz player got COVID and it sent panic through the entire arena. The game got canceled, and Rudy Gobert became one of the most hated players of all time. He got hate for potentially spreading it to other players and staff members and getting the season canceled. In hindsight, it's obvious that they probably would have shut down regardless because of how fast it was spreading, but at the time, Rudy Gobert was a villain to the basketball world. Number 6, Dillon Brooks. Dillon became a villain this past season after trash talking some of the top players in the NBA like LeBron James. Dillon Brooks is a very below average player for the Memphis Grizzlies who truly got popular by trash talking. While it was very entertaining, he was never able to back up the trash he talked. He also had a feud with a previous player on this list, Draymond Green. And obviously every time the two met, Draymond proved to be the better player. Fans love trash talk and players going at one another, but when you trash talk publicly and on the court as much as Dillon Brooks and you don't back it up, you just seem annoying. Number 5, Zaza Pachulia. Zaza Pachulia was a center for the Golden State Warriors a few years back and became notoriously one of the dirtiest players in the NBA. In the 2017 Western Conference Finals, the Warriors were playing against the Spurs. And when Kawhi Leonard attempted to take a jump shot in the third quarter, Zaza Pachulia stepped clear into Kawhi's landing space, causing him to injure his ankle. In real time, it was hard to tell, but watching the replay, you can clearly see Zaza put his foot right below Kawhi's, giving him no room to move and making it a pretty dangerous play that ended in an injury. Since this moment, Kawhi has missed over 200 games due to injuries, and this moment may have been a part of it. Nobody likes a dirty player. Number 4, Kelly Olynyk. Speaking of dirty players, this guy has probably injured more players than anybody else has. Like this play where for no reason at all, he went under Pascal Siakam and could have broken his arm. Or in the playoffs when he ripped Kevin Love's arm out of socket. This still stands as one of the dirtiest plays I've ever seen, and it could have costed the Cavs a championship in 2015. Considering after this moment, they lost their starting power forward because of this. I mean, Draymond Green even called Kelly Olynyk a dirty player. When Draymond says that about you, something is wrong. Number 3, LeBron James. LeBron is one of, if not the greatest player in NBA history, being the all-time scoring leader and winning 4 championships on 3 different teams. LeBron has consistently been torn down and hated for his entire career, and most of it is very undeserved. The hate truly began when he left Cleveland and joined the Miami Heat super team. Because he did it so publicly, and it being one of the only times we had ever seen a free agent move like this, the backlash was insane. LeBron was the most hated man in the NBA, and after he returned to Cleveland and won them a championship, everybody expected the hate to die down. But somehow, still to this day, LeBron gets hate for practically anything he does. Most of it is out of his control. Being compared to players like Michael Jordan and other all-time greats, older NBA fans don't want to admit the level that LeBron has gotten to. And it's honestly sad that most people can't appreciate the legend we've got to watch. LeBron still gets love from many fans, and I'm sure when he retires that everybody's going to give him his flowers. But as of today, LeBron is one of the most hated players ever. Number 2, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers of all time and a generational talent. His scoring ability and overall greatness cannot be questioned, but Kevin Durant was at one time the most scrutinized player of all time. He played with the Oklahoma City Thunder for the beginning of his career and even led them to the NBA Finals in 2012. He was loved by OKC fans and the rest of the NBA until 2016, when the Thunder lost to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals and Kevin Durant left OKC to join the team that just beat them. This Warriors team had just been one game away from a championship, and they went 73-9 in the regular season. Instead of going at them, KD decided to join them, and it's considered one of the weakest moves in sports history. After he left the Warriors, the hate for him has died down a little bit, and people can now accept it as a business decision. But at the time, nobody was a fan of Kevin Durant except Warriors fans. KD has now tried to form 2 other super teams, one on the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving and James Harden, and now on the Phoenix Suns with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. Kevin Durant lost a lot of people's respect by not leading a team and always trying to build a stacked roster around him, and it's made him a very hated player. Before I give the number 1 pick for the most hated player in NBA history, I want to go over some honorable mentions who didn't make the list but definitely get a lot of hate. Russell Westbrook has fans that will defend him to the death, but he's also gotten a lot of hate recently for setting teams back and having horrible shot selection. In Westbrook's prime, he was loved by everybody, but after moving from team to team and getting worse and worse, he's only gotten more hate. Dwight Howard has also gotten a lot of hate for causing problems on teams like the Rockets with James Harden, and overall pissing off almost every NBA franchise. He also ruined the chances of one of the biggest what-if final series of all time, in 2009 when the Magic beat the Cavs and ruined the opportunity for a Kobe vs LeBron finals. Not that it's Dwight Howard's fault for winning, obviously he's supposed to win, but it added towards the reason that people hate Dwight Howard. Bill Laimbeer is considered as one of the dirtiest players of all time as well, being the center for the Bad Boy Pistons in the 80s and always causing problems. He was very hated for his time and a very dirty player, but he did not make the top 10. So without further ado, the most hated player in NBA history, number 1, Karl Malone. When it comes to players who almost everybody hates, it was a pretty easy pick. Unless you simply do not know what happened, or you grew up in the 90s watching Karl Malone, then there is no excuse to like this guy after what he did. If you want to see a full analysis on the Karl Malone situation, I made a video detailing everything that happened on my channel. The link is in the description below if you're curious on the full story, but just know that Karl Malone is a very bad person who did some very bad, morally terrible, and very illegal things that the NBA refuses to acknowledge. Which NBA player do you guys hate the most? Let me know your pick in the comments below, but that about wraps up the list. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out my last video where I discuss the top 10 most loved NBA players of all time. But with that being said, I'm out of here, and I'll see you on the next one.